live, and Amanda just got here. Woo. We were stressing. We were like, oh no.
Yeah, I am so sorry about yesterday. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad about it. And thank you for being so flexible and being able to reschedule.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, we were watching the clock tick down, and we're just like, oh my gosh, where's she at?
No.
Where's she at?
No.
We're like, please. We're like, okay, we'll go live, and then hopefully she'll join us this time. Okay. We're so happy to have you here with us, and I'm sorry to hear about your family member coming down with COVID.
No,
hopefully
it's fine. You know how the holidays have been this year.
So sorry, that was an abrupt start. So everybody, hi, welcome. This is our author chat with Amanda Foody, where we are going to be discussing her book Wilderlore, The Accidental Apprentice. This was our group book for Mary Bookmas. And I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves, as well as Miss Foody.
Hi, I'm Kaylani from Kaylani Simply Me. You guys already know. Thanks for being here, Amanda. We're so happy to have you and so glad that we get to chat with you.
And hi, I'm Clint from Reed's Readers. You guys know who I am, and I'm always here because it's me, and it's amazing. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us. This was my first book of yours, and I absolutely loved it, and I pre-ordered the sequel before I even finished the book.
Thank you. That's also good to hear, and thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Amanda Foody. I'm the author of, like they said, The Accidental Apprentice. The sequel, The Weeping Tide, comes out on February 1st. And I've written some other books too. My most recent release has been All of Us Villains, which is a YA sort of magical Hunger Games. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you all. Yeah. I love copies too. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you came better prepared than I did. Well, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you guys.
Of course.
So something that I showed in one of the live shows, like in our live show yesterday, I did actually meet you once before, but you definitely wouldn't remember. It was BEA and BookCon before COVID, and so
the before time.
I actually have
that's awesome
from you.
The BC before COVID.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
BC.
I hear things like BEA and I'm like, oh wow, remember when?
Yeah, it was the last one before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that feels like that was so long ago.
I know.
Yes, it honestly does. And hearing about, we were all really hopeful about potential events this year, and then like ALA was canceled, and who knows what we're walking into this year in that regard.
She's here. She is here. We're very happy about that. And Amanda, Hope here is currently reading All of Us Villains and loving it.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that.
So yeah, we did do quite a bit of discussing of the book yesterday, but there were also lots of things that were like, I wish you were here to so we could ask you
the questions, yeah.
Ask you all the questions. One of the questions that I had for you is that all of your other books, they're all YA, and this is your first middle grade. And so I'm curious, like, why you decided to write a middle grade.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I was at that point in my career where I really, really wanted to write full time. This is like a very kind of publishing sort of answer, I guess, but I really wanted to write full time. Like, that's always been my dream. And at the time, I was juggling being an author with a day job. And even though I was super lucky that like I didn't have kids or anything like that, I only had to support me, that was still a huge jump to make. And so I started thinking, is there a way that I could publish? What if I published more than YA? What if I did more than one book a year? And I started reading a lot of adult books. I started reading a lot of middle grade books. I was like, which kind of speaks to me. And so I said, you know what, I gave them both a try initially. And then originally middle grade didn't actually work out. My agent was like, I don't know if you can do this. And I was like, yeah, it is a really hard voice to get. Like, maybe it's just not for me. And then a year or two went by and I had this idea for Wilderlore, and I started thinking about it because at the time, the type of middle grade books that I was trying to write were a little bit more on kind of the older literary side, because that's the only middle grade that I had read since I was a kid. But then I started thinking, like, what did I actually love to read as a kid? Like, what were those books like? And that's how I came up with the story. And the funny thing is once I started writing it, I feel like so much clicked for me. To be honest, the very, very first novel that I probably wrote in my life, it would have been considered a middle grade book. I was only 11 at the time. And yeah, once I got into the story, I was like, I love this. This is special to me. This is something that I don't think I could ever stop doing. I'm addicted now. I love writing for kids.
I love that.
I know that yesterday Clint was saying that it gave him all the feels of these classic children's stories. What were they?
Like Spiderwick Chronicles. It gave me Lemony Snicket. It gave me Charlie Bone series by Jenny Nemo. Stuff that I grew up with. And I was just like, I felt like I got those nostalgic vibes without ever being introduced to this world. So I feel like this is a middle grade that kids are going to feel that nostalgic vibes with.
Yeah, I know that Mello also mentioned. Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was actually going to say that.
No, Mel, go ahead, Mel. It was your
yeah, I was going to say that for me, what like this reminded me so much of, and it was funny when I like looked up the sequel to it and actually read the sequel synopsis in the live show. And it says, for fans of, I had said it very, very much gave me Nevermore vibes. And I was like, you've got the orphan, they have to go away to this place away from their home and the only place they've ever really known. And there's like the competition and all of that stuff. And I was like that definitely gave me like the Nevermore vibes. And I love both. So, and then when I read the synopsis of the Weeping Tide, I was just like, it says for fans of Nevermore.
So I have a question. Was this at all inspired by D&D?
Not necessarily. I've played D&D. I'm familiar with it. And I definitely wanted it to have that very specific flavor of fantasy that I think D&D has. But I would say my bigger fantasy inspirations were, I was a big fan of Septimus Heath as a kid.
Yes, Septimus Heath. Yes.
Like I feel like that's the type of stuff that I was really trying to evoke. And I feel like those all really do come from a very specific, they're all kind of similar in a way.
Because I noticed with like a lot of the creature names and a lot of the stuff in it reminded me of a lot of creatures in D&D. And this very much felt like it was a druid campaign from D&D.
Oh, okay.
Like every character was a druid.
Yeah, I am not D&D fluent, so that is like entirely coincidental. I feel like my husband would probably fill me in on some. He probably know a lot more about that than me.
And I think the question that I have that I'm the most interested in is I think that, writing as a whole, I think all of us here are interested in writing a book in some way, shape, or form. And I always think it's interesting seeing people's like thought process on writing. But now that you've written not only middle grade and YA, but you've now also co-written a book, how would you say that differs from writing a book on your own?
So it's different in so many ways. With any book, I feel like the most daunting aspect of writing a book is that it is this gigantic project, and it is expected that one person does the whole project from beginning to end, like every single detail of it, every change that I ever have to make. There is honestly no one else that I can rely on to do that work for me. And that's really intimidating. And one of the best aspects about co-writing is that honestly, like we have each other to rely on. My co-author is Christine Herman, by the way. So if I throw out the name Christine, you know what I'm talking about. But like even right now, Christine and I are working on All of Us Villains too. And right now we're doing a thing where, she writes a chapter and then she'll comment all over mine and then I can address those concerns. And we kind of just do this constant swapping back and forth. And it's just so relieving when I write a paragraph and I can leave a note on it and saying like, I like this description a lot, but I'm only 90% satisfied. Like, what do you think of this? And then she can change a word or two. And I'm like, now it's perfect. Oh my God. It's just a huge weight off your shoulders and it's really, really fun. And I feel like it takes a lot of the the type of stuff that you can feel insecure about, and that I think can be the most like just rigorously tiring. It just undermines all of that. It makes it all so much easier, and it has its own hurdles and things like that. But I just think overall, it honestly makes writing a book a little bit less daunting.
And do you find that you have to do less editing on a book that's co-written by two pretty well-written authors, or is it about the same? No.
No, I would say significantly more.
Really?
It's interesting because in All of Us Villains, my co-written book, there are 4 point of view characters, and I wrote 2 and Christine wrote 2. Even though we've, like I just said, like edited all over the manuscript at this point, like the book is both of ours, but that's how we go about our drafting and editing process. And so it makes drafting very quick. It makes certain aspects of editing really quick because it's basically double the work. Like I only have to do half the work in that way. However, there's a lot of streamlining that has to happen that I wouldn't necessarily have to do if it was my own book. Like a lot of times, even though we know each other's characters really well, sometimes one of us will write a line of dialogue and the other person would be like, that's not quite how they would say it. And then they would go in and adjust, or a lot of things like that. So there's a lot more. It's heavier on the editing side than the drafting side. Yes, more and less work at the same time.
So some of the things that I wanted to know, where did the name Barkley come from?
It's funny, I was looking at, I use a lot of baby name websites. When it comes time to name my characters, it just makes it very easy. And Barkley was one of the few names that I stumbled across that I was like, I like how this sounds. And I've only ever met one Barkley in my life, which is like a real winner, because I get like weirdly anxious about naming a character and then having someone like crawl out of the recesses of my past and be like, are they based off of me? I'm like, no. No. And I've only met one Barkley, and she was a girl, so I was like, okay, she probably would think that I made this tiny mushroom farmer apprentice based off of someone I know from college. And yeah, it just kind of, I don't know, it just hit. Sometimes it just hit.
Also, the mushroom farmer. What inspired the mushroom farmer?
To be honest, I have absolutely no idea. When I got the idea for Wilderlore, when I get the idea for pretty much any book, the first thing I do is I try to sit down and write the beginning. I love writing beginnings, and I feel like sometimes, even though I'm a huge plotter and I love to map out as much of the story as I can ahead of time as possible, that's like the one thing where I'm like, all right, let the story speak to me a little bit for all of like a page and a half. And that immediately came up on page. I just liked how aggressively rustic it was. There was something kind of comically, yeah, just like really silly. It wasn't even just a regular farmer, like a mushroom farmer. And right away I was like, oh, I can work in all these silly mushroom things like truffle hunting pigs and all of that. And it's funny because I actually had to do, after I committed to it and I was like, no, I really like this. I actually grew up very, very close to the place that produces like 90% of the world's mushrooms, or something kind of absurd. It's like Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. Yeah, tons of mushrooms come from there. And actually a friend of mine who's another author used to work for a mushroom farming company. So I was like, can I pick your brain? And she was like, yeah, like about what? I'm like, mushrooms, actually. Yeah.
So, you know, there's got to be a mushroom farmer for us to have mushrooms, but you never think about mushroom farmers,
right?
Speaking of mushroom farmers, does his master, the mushroom farmer, will he ever reappear?
Yes. So I'm actually currently finishing up book 3 right now and mapping out book 4. And I mean, I realize it's like pretty far ahead at this point, but yes, there are letters exchanged going forward. Yeah, with Master Pilsman, whose name literally means mushroom man in German.
Mushroom. Do you know the mushroom man?
Yeah.
Who lives on Drury Lane?
Yeah.
Oh, this was super cute. Oh, we were discussing like how you came up with like the names for all of these beasts, and we have no idea if we were saying any of the beasts' names right.
Yeah.
I listened to the audiobook for it, and that helped.
I physically read, so every time I was pronouncing something, they were like, "What are you talking about?" The audiobook said this. Like, oh, that makes more sense.
He's like, I'm saying this word.
Yes, there is a method to the madness, sort of, but it is absolutely, I think, I really enjoy it because I love the flavor that specifics add onto a page. Like, I love naming little stores and like, basically I just love immersing the world in what could honestly be considered a throwaway detail. I just love those. So I love what they add, but like, boy, are they tedious to come up with. I actually just reached the point in Wilderlore number 3. I don't name any of them until like I absolutely have to. I just keep like insert beast name here, and then I'll be like, spider beast or whatever it might be. And my editor just like deals with that until the end of the process. And then once I actually go about naming them, so in The Accidental Apprentice, being set in the woods was culturally inspired by Germany because of the whole like Black Forest sort of vibes. So I, from like at least like 50% of the names I relied on German for. My thing was that I wanted it to be inspired by a specific language for each Wilderland, but I still wanted it to feel accessible to what I knew was an English speaking reader. Like, for instance, in my German translation, if they want to go like way more ham with the beast names, like I feel like that works. But I kind of know in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm writing this for kids who primarily speak English. And so I want it to feel that way, but still be accessible. So what I usually did was like either I found German words and I combined them together in a way that I felt like it was intuitive, or I would combine it with an English word, or I would just go 100% English. It was just kind of spread out across the board. Because sometimes you find a German word for something and it's like 8 syllables long, and I'm like, oh, okay, so like maybe not that one. Yeah, to date, that's what I've done with all of the beast names. Is I've picked a language to kind of serve as my inspirational bedrock, and then sort of modified it for what I felt like was accessible to a young English speaking reader. And to date, the most challenging language to work with has been Irish by far. I think that will probably still win. That was very difficult. Nothing is pronounced the way that one would intuitively think at first.
Okay. Yeah, I do know they have a lot of like very interesting dialects and stuff all over Ireland. Like, one side of Ireland is going to sound way different than I mean,
yeah, well, the Irish alphabet, like the English alphabet was kind of forced onto their language. And so the way that they adapted it isn't necessarily in ways that somebody like coming from England who knows that type of English would immediately anticipate. But the once you learn the rules make a lot of sense. It's just that they don't look the way you would initially think they would look.
So seeing as you're writing book 3, is Irish the inspiration for book 2? Are we able to get that little
Yes. Yes, the sea is inspired, the sea and the weeping tide is inspired by Ireland, which was fun to research. My family's Irish. I went to like Irish Catholic school my whole life. That still did not help me with the language at all, but it was fun to draw on it here and there.
As someone who's very much into his Celtic heritage, and I plan on writing books based off of Celtic mythologies and stuff like that, that makes me even more excited for book 2.
Oh, good. I hope you like it. I tried really hard to kind of put in that Irish flavor, at least the kind that I grew up with.
The on the cover of the Weeping Tide, what is that creature that they're riding?
So they're called sunboards in the book. They're inspired by sunfish. And I put them into the world because I happened to find a Tumblr post one time that was talking about sunfish as being the stupidest creature to ever exist. And it like kind of went on with all this evidence about how ridiculous they are and how evolution has failed them. And it was really, really funny. And I was like, oh my God, I have to somehow include them. And they do kind of look like that. They're just these long, bony, board-like fish. So yes, they're in the book. And I do kind of allude a little bit to some of the facts that I learned in the Tumblr post in the story.
Isn't it crazy where some of your inspiration can spring from?
Right.
So
it's funny because I wasn't a big animal kid. I feel like this is something that I'm rediscovering in adulthood. I loved Pokemon. That was sort of my inspiration for the story. I was like, oh my god, Pokemon as a book, what would that be like? But yeah, I did not know a lot of facts about animals and things like that up until now, and I feel like I'm going through my like 8-year-old animal phase now, which is really fun.
somebody yesterday in the live show actually mentioned Pokemon and said that this book gave them Pokemon vibes, and I was like, I don't really know enough about Pokemon. I'm too old for Pokemon. Like, that happened. I was already an adult before Pokemon ever came into existence.
I will state though, I get where everybody comes with the Pokemon, but I get a little bit more Digimon because of how they to me, it was how they interact, like with their beasts, and the bonds that they have are very similar to the Digimon.
Oh, okay.
Like the main characters of Digimon and how they bond with their beasts and how they like can use each other and like it helps one another grow. Sorry,
Interesting. No, I when I was in first grade, I, being a Pokemon kid, had a very intense rivalry with the Digimon kid. And this is all news to me.
I did too. Hardcore Pokemon all the way, but as I got older, I liked a boy and he loved Digimon, so I was like, okay, I dived into Digimon.
Yeah. That's funny. I never knew the parallels there, but that makes complete sense. Yeah, I was a huge Pokemon fan as a kid. It was how I learned to read. My brother and I were obsessed with the games. I still have like my old Game Boy Color. I still play the new games when they come out. I love them. And my 8-year-old brother is also very obsessed with Pokemon. So we bond over our shared knowledge of Pokemon.
I mean, Eevee and Vulpix are up there, so
I have an Eevee one too.
I love the reaction though. No,
I know. The look on your face is like,
it's fine.
The rival.
Okay. He could have said Yu-Gi-Oh! And then no.
Okay, to explain for those who aren't really big into Pokemon, comparing Pokemon to Digimon is like comparing Backstreet Boys to NSYNC. And the fights that we had growing up. Listen.
That I get a little bit more.
Just thought that would help you guys a little bit understand that.
Yeah, my kids were more of the Pokemon age, so I'm old.
I was a Pokemon age and around Yu-Gi-Oh, but I just never. My brother really got into Yu-Gi-Oh, but I just never really understood it. Like, I don't understand the cards. I don't understand the world. Like,
I played Magic the Gathering, which is like what Pokemon evolved from.
Yeah.
You understood Magic the Gathering? I still can't. I play it with Yu-Gi-Oh rules, and I can't. It doesn't make sense.
Amanda, it would be cool to read a pre-Ace of Shades about the misers and the whole era, and can't wait for the second book to Accidental Apprentice.
Oh, thank you. At the moment, I don't have any Shadow Game series books currently planned. But if I did, that actually is probably what I would be writing. I'd be writing a prequel. I love prequels.
They are fun.
The Pokemon versus Digimon debate was real. My kids are extremely into Pokemon, so I know so much. We play the games and we always watch the movies. Yeah, I like to think I caught a couple of cartoons as my kids watched them because it was a cartoon, right? Pokemon.
Yeah,
I know, like,
it's an anime, not a cartoon. It's an anime, not a cartoon. There's a difference, but that's beside the point.
I feel like Pokemon is one of those things, though, that kind of like expands past generations, because I feel like so many people are still like teaching their kids, or their kids are engrossed in a Pokemon world. And I think that's really interesting when you think about like inspirations with certain books like this. It's like even kids now would be able to draw that correlation because it's still really prevalent in
Yeah, like I was saying, my 8-year-old brother loves Pokemon and plays all the games. So we talk a lot about, I'm still with it. I still know all that stuff.
I just
Yeah.
need Ash to age at least a year, please.
Yeah.
Because
At this point, the conspiracy theories are starting to get a little unnerving.
he's been like 10, 11 since the beginning of the show, and he's still the same age.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say the Shadow Game series is one of my favorite series and one of the series that got me into reading.
Oh my God. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
It's so great to hear.
Hope is she's 17. She is our baby. She is the baby of our group, and yeah. I can tell you this one, I love this one. Oh my goodness. I love this one so much. And I have a couple of tabs in it. And yesterday during the live show, I had fun reading the things that I had tabbed. And let's see. There were some quotes. And I thought I'd share these with you. Some quotes that I wrote. And then I also commented on these quotes because I did little post-it notes. And so I rolled my eyes. If she knew the truth, she'd just as quickly call it devil work. And then I wrote, how could she roll her eyes? She doesn't have any eyes.
Oh no. I won't lie. It was a difficult thing to keep up with the whole time. And I feel like there are a few things that slipped past even me and my copy editors here and there.
There's like art and stuff in here too.
Yes, I love the illustrations.
I wrote, adore me, WTF.
Did you do these illustrations? That's my question.
Oh gosh, no. No. I hit my drawing threshold at like 6th grade. That's what I teach.
And then I have, this was a quote. How would we all feel if we woke up tomorrow morning and found you two cut right down the middle? And then I was like, wait, what? See page 240. And that's 240.
And seeing as somebody that's like, I've never heard of this book. I've only been like 2 years into reading at this point. Well, back into reading since I was in high school. And I'm like, wait, what is this book about? I'm so intrigued. Like,
I know, right?
I loved it.
It's about it combines like a classic murder mystery with a fantasy novel, and it's set in this roaming magical circus, and the main character is the star of the freak show.
Oh my gosh, circus books are like literally my favorite.
I loved it. It was so interesting and different than anything else I'd read. And so it was like I was completely engrossed in it.
Yeah, I was a huge mystery reader as a kid. That's probably after fantasy my next favorite genre. I read so much Agatha Christie and all of that. And so it was, really, really fun to combine them. And I feel like there might be a chance that down the line I try to write another fantasy mystery book because I think they are really fun genres to mix and match.
Reading Queen of Bolts now, and I'm missing Jack. Amanda, how could you?
I still get DMs about this like once a month at least, if not more.
I own this book. It's going on my TBR now. Daughter of the Burning City. Yeah, I highly recommend it. And the newest book, All of Us Villains, like, oh my gosh, it sounds so good. I haven't read this one yet, but I had a hard time not like throwing out my entire TBR when it came in the mail. I was like, I really want to read it right
now. And I watched one of my
good.
favorite booktubers. Her name is Becca from the book. She recently read this book and loved it. And so now every time I see somebody, like I've owned it for a little while, but every time I see somebody like pick it up, I'm like, oh God, don't do it. Your TBR is too big. Don't do it. But it's definitely one of my most anticipated books of this year. The synopsis of this book is just freaking fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, I hope you guys like it. Yeah, we had so much fun with it. The sequel right now is giving us a headache, but we've had so much fun with the series.
Speaking of, I know you talked about you're writing book 3 in the Wilderlore series, and you're like planning out book 4, and then you talked about the second book in this one. Is there anything else that's currently on your plate that you're expecting to publish in the next couple of years, or are these your main priority focuses?
Yeah, so right now I do have some other stuff kind of on my plate, or at least very soon to be on my plate. and nothing actually has been announced yet. So I'm sitting on a whole bunch of secrets actually, and I'm really excited about them. I think one of them I should hopefully be able to share in the next month or two. One of them might be like a year. I don't know yet.
Are they
I'm reading-
YA? They middle grade, adult?
Yeah,
get
so
anything I
one
can
of them
get.
is YA. One of them is YA. And the other one, I don't know how much I should give away.
No, don't get yourself in any trouble. We'll take a little snippet.
The other one is something new, I guess I can say.
Exciting. That's super exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been so exciting. I've had, quite honestly, like a whirlwind of the past 2 months. I had kind of a bunch of things happen all within about a week of each other. And in publishing, that is basically like seeing a shooting star. Like that never ever happens. There's usually a lot of waiting. So, and I did wait a really long time, and then it just so happened that everything happened at once. So it's been really fun, and I'm excited for kind of to get back in the swing of things, because December I was gone pretty much the whole month for my wedding and honeymoon. So a lot of the things. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm looking forward, like all these kind of secrets I'm sitting on. Like I have no idea when I get to share anything, and I'm looking forward to finally being able to talk about them, because there's been such a hiatus.
So I missed that just a little bit. You say you just got married?
Yeah, I got married less than a month ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the middle of the, like, from the time I wrote you to now, you got married.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got married. It was just a few weeks after All of Us Villains came out, which I don't really recommend. That's probably like the only, I'd be like, don't have a book come out within like a few weeks of your wedding. I didn't really get a say in that exactly, but even so. So it was very hectic. November was so busy. I got married on December 4th. And but after all the busyness, it was really great, because then we got to go on a honeymoon for 2 weeks. And I still feel so lucky that we got to take so much time. And with the holidays and everything, yeah, I don't know, I am kind of excited to get back to work now.
You got married on my husband and I's anniversary.
Wait, what?
That's my husband and I's like anniversary of knowing each other.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I know, it's like funny thinking about it. I was like, oh, so I guess our old anniversary, like, is that not an anniversary anymore? The one that we've been celebrating every year? Like now we're on like a new one.
See,
yeah,
that's
the old anniversary is null and void, I think.
See, that's what I've been debating with, because we're getting married. Me and my partner are getting married in November.
Oh,
we're getting married November 5th. Our anniversary is November 15th. So I was just like,
it's so close.
So do we just celebrate both?
Nah.
Or does the 15th just disappear?
It just disappears.
No,
like,
this year.
I mean, my husband and I's first date was like January 5th, but we got married February 14th. And I don't think we've ever celebrated anything about January 5th at all. Ever. And we're almost at 24 years now.
Yeah, this year was my first year. No, that's a lie. This was the second year, because we've been married 2 years, of like the December 4th anniversary. And this year, it was like December 17th. And I'm like, oh, I forgot. Sorry, honey. Happy anniversary.
Well, fortunately for me, I can't. Neither one of us can forget, because we got married on Valentine's Day. So it's like.
No, it wasn't my wedding anniversary. It was the day we met anniversary.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of comments. Let me go through some of these.
Oh, okay.
At Yahoo Finance, we recommend mostly nonfiction. Okay. Fantasy books with mystery elements is top tier.
Hello.
Okay. I bought All of Us Villains.
Oh, thank you.
I'm on that train as well. I can't wait to read All of Us Villains. Yes, I'm just so excited to read that.
I mean, the minute I finished this, that one and Daughter of Burning City went to my wish list, and I have Ace of Shades to read, which I will be adding to a TBR soon.
Yeah,
I really like it.
I told both of them, Kaylin, you haven't read Ace of Shades yet?
No,
either.
But you recommended it for.
Yeah, I told them they both have. One of our last season-a-thon readathons, we had Janella Angelis, and one of our group books was Where Dreams Descend. And I told him, I was like, y'all love that book. You're gonna love Ace of Shades because they give me the same kind of vibes.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. Janelle, she's actually a really good friend of mine. She lives like in walking distance of me. And actually, when my husband and I whenever we're gone for the weekend, she watches our cat.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
That
she's
is
like
awesome.
the local author, like cat sitter. Like all the authors in the area give Janelle their cats.
Well, she's done one of these live shows with us. That's so funny. Yeah,
She did it in July.
Yeah, it was for one of our summer season-athons, and we actually had two because of how I had to send the emails and stuff. I ended up getting yeses back from two authors. Like we had one, and then I think it was Janella
first.
Janella was
Janella
first.
said yes, and then somebody we had written before eventually came and said yes as well, and so we ended up with two group books, and so we had two different live shows. So we had Janella, and then the very next week we had Jeff Zentner, and very different books. Very
different books.
So it worked out great because we were like, well, if you can read this group book, or you can read this, or you can read both. I read both. But yeah, it's like very, very different vibes. If you want something that's going to rip your heart out and make you cry like crazy, read The Serpent King.
If you want a good, fun competition with lots of magical and like things, just read Janella's. I can't think words.
Did the Hunger Games inspire for all of us villains after all?
Oh, absolutely. So when Christine and I set out to write it, our conversation actually just revolved around how much we enjoyed the death tournament trope and that we knew it was so popular, but we still totally burned a torch for it. And so that was sort of what got us started on it, was this idea of death tournaments as a whole. And of course, the Hunger Games being probably the most famous YA death tournament book was a huge part of our conversations and inspiration. We were very cognizant of, well, what did we like from that story that we want to incorporate into our use of the trope? What might we try to twist, or, what didn't we like as much? All these type of things was a huge part of the conversation among a bunch of other death tournament books. I would say the two big other ones, Three Dark Crowns, in the past several years, I feel like it's a very famous death tournament book. And then the only other one that we did consider here and there, just because it's so famous, and even though it's not a death tournament, it's a tournament, is Goblet of Fire. Just because, it's probably one of the other really famous tournaments that come to mind that people would be instantly familiar with. And so we talked through all those kind of things in terms of what we liked, what we thought we'd take, what we thought we'd change. And that's what made it really fun. I think there's something really fun about starting a story with a trope. I've never done that before. I don't even know if I ever would again, except with writing with Christine. But it is really, really fun.
One of the first books that came to mind with the death tournament trope was one I read this year and absolutely love, but I don't think it's a very well-known book, and it's The Savior's Champion by Jenna Morrissey.
Okay.
Oh, good. And it's it is different because it's actually the main character, the voice that we're getting throughout is male instead of a female character, which most of these they're more aimed at like female main characters in a lot of them. And this one had a male main character, and he was part of the competition, and it was like an underground labyrinth and all of these things that could hurt you and kill you. And some things you had to use your mind, some had to use strength, some had to, all kinds of different stuff. And like, also they were killing each other because whoever made it to the end got to like win the hand of the savior, and because she's now of age, and so he would become like the ruler of the land, and a lot of money and stuff. And it's so good. Like within the first hour of them being underground, already people were dead. And so
it's a brutal book.
It is brutal, like brutal. And I very much enjoyed it. So yay, death tournaments.
So
that's weird.
I have a question that we ask at all of these. what is a book that you would recommend that you have read recently, or it could be anything that you think readers, that's one of your new favorites that you think readers really need to read?
Ooh, what did I read recently? There's a book that I reread recently that is just one of my all-time, possibly my favorite YA book I've ever read, that I reread every so often. And the sequel is coming out really soon. We've been waiting for so long. I'm so excited. The book is Test of the Road. And it's by Rachel Hartman. It's a spin-off series of her original duology, which was called Seraphina, which is also incredible. I highly recommend it. Seraphina came out, I remember when that came out, I was like I think I was a senior in high school when that came out, and it was like one of those books that I read when I was getting really serious about writing. I was like, this. And so this is a spin-off of that story. You don't need to have read Seraphina to understand this new series. But it is so incredible. It is a tearjerker. You will cry. I've cried every time I read it. I like bawled on public transport when I read it for the first time, actually.
So it's a book I need, seeing as I'm the one that's known for all the books that make people cry.
Yes, it's very, very lovely. I do recommend checking out the content warnings on the book before you read it, just to be careful, because a lot of the things that make you cry, I feel like would also be potentially a little harmful for someone who's not expecting it. But yes, I highly recommend it. It is just incredible.
I added it to my list. That sounds amazing.
What are you reading currently?
Currently, I am reading Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune.
One of Clint's favorite books.
That is my favorite book of all time.
Yeah, I love it right now. I'm halfway through.
We're huge T.J. Klune fans on this channel.
Where's my book?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's not right here. I'm actually currently listening to Heart Song by T.J. Klune.
I'm currently I'm hosting a pack along of reading the Wolf Song series by T.J. Klune.
It's I absolutely loved House in the Cerulean Sea. Like, I absolutely loved it. And it's funny because the reason that I read it, Christine and my editor at Tortine for All of Us Villains, wasn't the initial editor who acquired our book. When the pandemic hit, there were a number of layoffs and reshuffling. So we moved to this new editor who is wonderful. We've now worked with her for several years. But I was like, oh, I guess I should read like some of the books that she's edited before. And so I picked up House of the Cerulean Sea. And I remember texting Christine. I was like, have you read this? And she was like, no, not yet. I was like, I don't think I can ever talk to our editor again. I love this book too much. I don't think I can ever do this again. Yeah,
that's so good.
I really like it.
Well, you just made my day by telling me that your editor is the editor of House. Okay.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's still kind of blows my mind a little bit. I guess Tortine and Tor it's all actually kind of the same thing.
So we're just getting to the comments where you're getting the congrats for getting married.
A little behind.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, maybe this is what's his favorite book? Maybe it might have been when you were talking about your husband.
Oh, his favorite book? Oh gosh. You know, I don't actually know the answer to that. He definitely reads a few more kind of on like the classic side than I do. We were both English majors at the same college, and somehow we never took classes together because we read very, very different stuff. Though right now, actually, his next read is The Weeping Tide. So I'm excited because then I'm like, haha, yes, my weird children's books in comparison to like the.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you if he read your books. Is he one? Yeah, is he like a beta reader for you?
No, he's not. So he's read, I know a lot of authors do that with their significant others. And what he is instead is that he listens to me talk, which is like enough for me. I feel like I'm constantly talking about my books to the point that I'm like, okay, like, do you have a second? He's like, is it a book thing? And I'm like, yeah. And he knows that a second means like 20 minutes. So he reads all my books once they're available in kind of ARC form. That's usually around the time that I'll pass it off to him. So at this point, the only book he hasn't read yet of mine that's in ARC form is The Weeping Tide. Yeah.
This one is ARC.
Yeah, I can tell it has a shininess to it.
I was like, I want to wait until The Weeping Tide comes out in paperback, so I can get it and it matches.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm like, even
Yeah,
if
I'm
I
excited
had
to
a
see that.
paperback, I couldn't wait. I'm sorry, I can't wait.
I'm like, I want them to match.
Yeah, I'm also really excited to see the paperbacks of the Accidental Apprentice, which also come out on February 1st, the same day as the Leaping Tide.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's kind of normal for books that the paperback of the first will come out the same day as the hardcover of the second.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
cool.
excited. They should
I've
be
never
coming. My
noticed
author
that before.
copies. My author copy should be coming almost any day now.
She's like looking outside. Is it here?
Yeah,
Here?
yeah, I didn't. Usually it's about a month ahead of time that I've gotten my author copies, but with the supply chain stuff, I got all of us villains like 4 days before it came out. So I won't hold my breath.
Which authors or books do you draw inspiration from?
Oh gosh, so many. In the middle grade space, I definitely look back on a lot of my favorite stuff from when I was a kid that was like very nostalgic. So I would say Angie Sage, who wrote Septimus Heap, is a big one. I loved the Pendragon series, which is probably a little bit more YA, but I love the Pendragon series by Gigi McHale. I also, even though this is books, I actually also draw a lot of inspiration, I feel like, from television equally as much as books. I watch so much TV. I'm always actually a little kind of hard on myself about like, oh, I should have read more books this year, but I watch so much TV. And Wilderlore in particular, I took a lot of inspiration from some of my favorite shows when I was a kid, like Avatar and then probably Naruto. Are the two biggest
Oh
ones.
my god, I can totally see that with both of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Chunin exams is one of my all-time favorite Naruto arcs. Yeah. And then otherwise, let's see, some of my favorite authors. I love Erin Morgenstern's books. All of her books are among my favorite books. They're so good.
So good.
What else have I read recently that I've really loved? In YA, Margaret Rogerson's books. I absolutely love her writing style. I read Vespertine a few months ago, and it totally blew my mind, as all of her books always do. Yeah, those are probably the two biggest names that are coming to mind right now.
I have 2 copies of that book. I need to read it. I have an art
so
and I have a
good.
finished copy of it, and I need to read it.
I have a hard question to answer, and if you don't want to answer it, I get it. But if you had to choose between The Starless Sea and The Night Circus, which one would you choose?
The Starless Sea.
Interesting.
Yeah, The Starless Sea might be one of my favorite books of all time. It's funny. So I actually went to her launch of The Starless Sea. She lives in Boston. I went with Janella, actually. We were both huge Erin Morgenstern. We're both big Erin Morgenstern fans. And so we went together. And so I got to hear her talk about it. And I hadn't read it yet because it was the first day that it came out. And hearing her talk about it, I was like, oh, that really reminds me of a book that I'm working on. Like, really reminds me of that. I was like, I have a feeling I'm going to really like this. And then for some reason, it sat on my shelf for a year. I don't know why. And then I finally got to it, and it did. I was like, oh my God, this is like a cult title. Like, it's speaking to me in the same way that this one project that I love that I'm working on that I cannot talk about. But it kind of made it like doubly special. I was like, I would have loved this anyway. And then at the same time, I was like, yeah,
It's a close
I feel
place
this.
Yeah, I feel like not the Night Circus. Well, yes, both of them. But The Starless Sea is one of the most genius books I ever read. Like, how did she make it all come together? I still don't understand it. I need to reread it because it's so good. I personally like The Night Circus the best, but I rated them both like amazing. I love them so much, but it's just so genius. Like, it blows my mind. I don't get it.
Yeah, I love both of them too. In fact, I'm probably going to be rereading both of them sometime this winter. It's kind of been on my list.
I still need to read both.
Same.
So good.
Yes, you do. They're so good.
Which book was your favorite to write?
Of all my books, oh my gosh. I mean,
I'm choosing a baby.
I loved writing them all for different reasons. Let's see. What's my favorite to write? The Accidental Apprentice was honestly up there. I loved writing that book. I also, maybe this is just because it's the most recent, which I feel like is super common. I feel like, what is my favorite thing? It's the thing I'm currently working on. I actually love Wilderlore 3. I'm completely obsessed with it. I've had so much fun working on it, and it's so fun. Right now we're in the midst of the cover design process. The cover is pretty much finalized in black and white. I'm waiting to see the in color version next year. And it's so fun seeing the book come together, the map getting made, the appendix with all the beasts in it, like coming together. Oh, it's the best.
So,
It's my favorite part of the
question
process.
to drag on with Wilderlore, how many books will be in the series? Just curious.
So I'm aiming for 6 or 7.
Okay.
We were right, 6.
We were talking about
discussed this
that
in the other live.
because I was like, when we were reading on the synopsis of the second one, we're like, well, okay, if each one's going to deal with a legendary beast, there's going to be at least 6, then
Yep.
possibly a 7th to tie them all together.
Yeah,
To an overarching
that's
thing.
exactly right. Yes, and it's been really fun about writing the series because then every book being set in a different biome, a different Wilderland, has a totally different flavor, and I love that. It's really fun walking into the book and knowing like, okay, like it's obviously the same characters and the same story, but like I get to do something totally different with my descriptions the whole time. It's a lot of fun.
So can you tell us, and it's okay if you can't, but can you tell us the legendary beast that's going to be the third one?
Okay, so I don't know. So my publisher recently sent out something that did actually hint at which Wilderland it is. And I didn't know we were going to do that. So I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. Are we supposed to be talking about this? So I guess with that in mind, I can probably share it. I don't know. Okay, I think I can probably share it. I mean, if they send it to like everyone on Instagram. It's going to be set at the desert. So the legendary beast is Shakula.
That's what I had in mind. Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, so going from the water to the oh, I like
Yeah,
this.
well, I wanted to because in the Weeping Tide, one of the major characters in the book, Tig Murdoch, is from the sea. And so in a lot of ways, I was like, okay, now we're going to get to see where Tig's from. We're going to get to kind of understand his character more and get that different layers of him. And Viola has a lot of family who lives in the desert. And so we get to see that in book 3 with her. So it was fun to kind of go through each character of the series and see more and more of them and what makes them who they are.
So the Accidental Apprentice, you used German as a base for like the language and stuff. And you said Irish for Weeping Tide. Which one can you tell us like which?
Yeah. So the vast majority of book 3 is set in an Egyptian inspired setting.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, you are going to make
like...
my fiance's day now because he's obsessed with the Egyptian.
Yeah.
Egyptian everything.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it. I don't want to spoil too much else about the story, but
we won't ask anything else.
Yes. We'll leave the rest for surprise. Purple Rainheart says, okay, I couldn't help myself. Just bought all of us villains as well as Beyond the Ruby Veil.
I love Beyond the Ruby Veil. Mara is another very good friend of mine who lives in Boston as well.
And Karina was adding your Rex to her TBR. I have Tess of the Road on my Nook library.
Oh my gosh. Read it. You will not regret it.
I read Seraphina a long time ago. I really liked it. I think I have Seraphina, but I don't think I've ever read it. Okay. Love Seraphina. TJ Clune.
Interesting.
I think they're talking about you, Kaylani.
Oh, thank you.
I like that's the only one that would make sense.
Hello, friends, and Amanda.
Hi, Drew.
I love middle grade books because they remind me to keep my whimsy alive.
Yes.
I like that. It's just, to me, I don't know. I don't know that I really read a lot of middle grade type books as I was younger. I think it's weird. I think I tried to read older as I was younger. And now that I'm older, I'm reading younger.
Yep.
But it's just it's fun. They're so much fun to read, and they're quick to read. Like middle grade's so quick, and I love it because I feel accomplished.
When I was a kid, I was the opposite because we took those reading tests, and they were like, "Oh, you're reading at a college level. You should be reading Lord of the Rings." And I was like, "But Hank the Cowdog is what's calling to me. Boxcar Children. Like, can I read these? Because this is what I'm wanting to read." And they're like, "No, you have to read The Hobbit." And I was like, "No."
I was the exact same way. I loved kids' books. I feel like I remember reading Shakespeare at the same time I was reading Captain Underpants.
Accurate.
I remember being like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old and reading Harlequin romance,
Oh.
which I really should not have been reading.
I mean, I was reading those too from my mother's closet just so I could have books.
Okay, but when can we expect to pre-order book 3 now?
Probably late spring, summer, I would think. All I know is it's coming out in spring 2023. I don't know anything else yet.
That's fun.
I love that. I love Egyptians.
Okay.
I'm not a huge middle grade reader, but I'm wanting your book on my TBR. I remember reading this. Who was your favorite character in The Accidental Apprentice?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, Barkley definitely was one of them. I love Barkley's character, and this is one of the first books that I've written in a while that has only one character and one narrator, and we're with him as the sole narrator for the entire series. And so I really had to commit to someone that I really liked, and I love his character so much. Trying to think of a side character. There were definitely a lot of amusing side characters that I really liked. Honestly, Master Pillsman might be one of them. I do really like Master Pillsman.
Well, I think this is one thing that we didn't touch on, and I feel like most of the people here have read the book, and/or if you're this far into the live show, sorry. But the big twist of this book, the idea of friends turning your back on you. Did you always intend for the first book to deal with that topic, or was it kind of something that happened as you wrote?
So it was, I'm trying to remember now. I definitely planned it ahead of time because I am a bit of like a plotter ahead of time. I like to outline my books before I write them. And in terms of dealing with it, sometimes I feel like I plan things, and then once I actually start writing them, when I understand the dynamic between the characters a little better, I start to understand how heavy something can actually be. And that concept of kind of betrayal and whatnot is actually something that I feel like the first book deals with a lot, and it carries a little bit into book 2. And I've actually really liked that. I like kind of overturning when I plot things out. Like I said, I don't really think about those things, but that's what I love discovering on the page, is like where it really like kind of hits.
And I think for a middle grade reader, like that, for me, it's different because it's not my target audience. But as a middle grade reader reading that, I think that really would have been like such an eye-opening experience as a reader, which I love.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult age, right? It's like when that's also I feel like the age where you start to see like people change. And I have some memories of like, kids that I knew that I felt like you see them at summer camp, you see them at summer camp next year, and they're a totally different person. They don't sit with you anymore.
I have said many, many times, and I'm sorry if there are any in that age group watching this, but they're monsters. I've had 2 go through that age and all their little friends, and they're all just monsters. And I think a lot of it has to do with like hormones and not knowing like how to, like, their brain not knowing how to process the things that are going on, and it just makes them mean and awful and monsters.
Yeah, I not that long ago I stumbled across my diary from when I was 12 years old, and I was like, oh, like that's kind of funny. Like I'll go back and see like me talking about like wanting to be a writer and all this stuff, and I'm reading it and I was like, oh my god, I was a terrible person. I have to throw this out. Oh my god.
But
monsters.
Added it to the twist. I do want to commend you on the fact of using the imagery of the mirrors, and the fact that the mirror you see your true self in, and it's just like the imagery is all there, and the mirror should have been a key component to me to know it was going to happen, but I didn't. Like I had a suspicion on one, and I thought it was going to be on the other because it was so much on this person, so I thought it was just going to be this person, not the way it happened.
Yeah, I feel like it was a subtle way. It was definitely on the more subtle side, because at the end of the day, the biggest thing I wanted the mirrors to be was just like that they were kind of twins. It felt like a fun twin power. And then as I was writing it, I was like, oh yeah, it does kind of have that a little sprinkle of like, yes, deep. Haha. I don't know.
I
There's
also
something about
totally
that.
saw that scene going on in my head.
Yes. The whole battle like sequence was just so fun to like visualize because I feel like it was written so well that it's like you could have been there on the sidelines watching these beasts and these characters battle. It was really
Oh,
fun.
thank you. I love writing action scenes. I feel like you either dread them or you love them. And honestly, it would have been really hard to walk into the series and like dread them. There are a lot of battle scenes in the series.
I personally think this would make an amazing cartoon for kids.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like the imagery
Mhm.
alone would just be phenomenal to see.
That would be so cool. I would absolutely love that. Yeah, that'd be pretty much like bucket list kind of dream.
So something I had said in the other live show was that that in this book we get the feeling that Barkley is special, like that he's obviously where he starts from, he doesn't belong there, and then with the lore keepers, he seems like there's something about him that kind of stands apart from them as well. And I'm wondering, do we learn something about that in a future book? Like what's like why he can like why
Without too many spoilers.
Yeah. Why he's special and like this beast bonding with him like instantly. And I said I thought maybe it was something to do with his parents.
You will have to read more books in the series.
Can either confirm or deny.
But in the more books, we will learn more about his past or him.
Yeah, that is something that gets discussed a little later in the series. A bit just more understanding of why.
Okay, that's what I was wanting. Let's see what else we got. If you had a mythical beast, which do you think you would bond with? That's a good question.
I mean, if I could, I would pick my cat, but I don't know if my cat would pick me. I
love that cute little dragon. That dragon was so cute.
Right? A dragon would be really, really fun, to be fair. Actually, Mitzi in the book, Mitzi's behavior a lot of times was very inspired by my cat.
We love that.
Yes, he's a rambunctious dude.
I can say if an animal were to be bonded with me, it was instantly my Einstein. I have an Australian Shepherd puppy. He's a huge, massive puppy. Like he's almost 10 months old, and he is like 70 pounds, and he is a beast. he's. I call him. I said I didn't realize when I adopted a puppy that I was actually getting a horse.
Yeah.
That's so big. Oh my gosh.
Like he was up here trying to like his head will come up right here while I'm sitting down. He'll shove himself up under my desk. And yeah, he pretty much he's my shadow and follows me everywhere. Like I can go upstairs and go into a room and he follows me upstairs and he'll sit right outside the door and just wait for me. He's my shadow.
Oh, so cute. Oh my gosh.
He's like currently sleeping on the other side of my desk.
Yeah, Jellybean's currently sleeping on a box.
Did you just say Jellybean?
Yeah, my cat's name is Jellybean.
That is the best name.
That's cute.
It suits
With
him.
Jellybean, a feline beastly companion of her own.
Yes.
Same.
Yes, I think the book's actually dedicated to him. Yeah, I've got it to Jellybean. My ferocious beast of maps, belly rubs, and zoomies. Every book in the series is dedicated to a different pet that I've had over the course of my life. But
I love that.
Yeah, see, I totally didn't even notice that because I just jumped right into the book.
See, you describing your cat like that is so mine and Sterling's dog.
Yeah.
With the zoomies.
Yep.
Because we have a Shih Tzu mutt. Like, we don't know exactly what he's mixed with, but zoomies. I can currently hear him doing the zoomies right now.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Jellybean
Chewy.
is like Jellybean does like aspiring parkour in our apartment. Yeah.
Would you ever consider making a spin-off series of Accidental Apprentice?
Ooh, that sounds really fun. I haven't considered it yet because I'm still like working on the 6 or 7 book series that it currently is. But when it's over, I would definitely be open to that. However, I do have an idea for another potential middle grade series in my head that I got. I got the idea all of about like 2 months after I started working on the first Wilderlore book. So it's kind of understood for a very long time that it's like going to be in the backseat for a while. But that would be fun to get back to too. But yeah, I would totally consider it. I love these books. Yeah, I thought I would be tired of the series by now, and no, I'm still completely obsessed.
Karina says she also loves the incorporation of tattoo magic, such a fascinating concept.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was actually, that was one of the aspects of the book that I drew directly from Pokemon, because I was like, okay, so in Pokemon, you know, they have all these beasts, but the beasts aren't like, the Pokemon aren't always with them. I was like, where are they going to go? And so that's why I was like, oh, a tattoo would be interesting. And then it was really fun because my publisher for the first book, one of the swag items that they made in the marketing materials ahead of time were these little metallic gold temporary tattoos.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I thought they were so cute. I sent some to my brother, and the two of us were like FaceTiming with like our root marks on our arms. It was really sweet.
That's awesome. I did like the little group of friends until the twins turned evil, and I never suspected them. Totally took me by surprise. Yeah. I had the feeling that Tyke was not who we thought.
Yeah.
See,
Like-
he reminds me a lot of Draco Malfoy.
Oh, really?
In the sense of how he was reacting to people. Was like, oh, I'm Mr. Badass. But he's really not. Oh! Words, my bad.
This is a children's book.
I know, right? You should have heard him yesterday.
Hey, that's the only one I've let slip, okay? I'm doing good. But like, yeah, it's like has that mentality of I have to be Mr. Powerful. I have to be the best of the best of the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
When he's really on the inside crying. It's kind of like how he came across to me.
Yeah, I love Tyke's character. He was a lot of fun to explore in book 2. For all of those reasons.
Exciting.
Can't wait to read book 2.
Me too.
I thought it would be really cool if it was a live action series to watch.
Yes.
I mean, Bridge to Terabithia and Spiderwick Chronicles gives us to know that we can do this as a live action.
Yeah, I mean, have you guys seen the live action of his Dark Materials?
No.
No,
Golden
like the Golden
Compass?
Compass.
Oh my god, Golden
yeah.
Compass, yes.
Yeah, it's an HBO show. It has Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy whose name I always forget who played young Professor X.
James
so
McAvoy.
Yeah, James McAvoy. Yeah, it is. The show is so good. Like the care that they put into it's incredible. It's incredible. It has one of those intros with like a song that gets stuck in your head. You know what I mean? Yeah, I highly recommend it. Oh yes, I think so would all of us.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I would want a wolf, but maybe a water creature instead because I'm not a strong swimmer, so they could save me.
I was like
thinking about survival.
A sunfish.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking root, but I don't want to run. I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
I am lazy. I don't want to run.
Let me
It's
have
funny
one
you
that I can
say
ride.
Right. It's funny you say that
Yes.
because Barkley liking running could not be more antithetical about who I am as a person and what I believe in. So it's so difficult to describe that. I'm like, why does he like this thing? Yeah.
I'm
It's
like,
like that sound that's like, are you running? Why are you running? Is somebody chasing you?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the only way I'm running.
The only running I do is towards the buffet.
Food.
I'm
Food.
like, give me a Pegasus. I can ride it. It can run fast or it can fly.
That's true. It's a good one.
How are you able to balance your works out, like publishing wise or in between books?
The answer to that is that I am still figuring that out. It's been really busy. I think I spent 2021, apart from my honeymoon, I think there were only 4 days in the entire year that I wasn't on deadline with something. Just because 2 books at once, you know, it just kind of it fills the schedule, that's for sure. I would say that the main things that I do care about, I'm very precious with my weekends. It's like a huge aspect of working full time, of writing full time, which is amazing, is that my weekends used to be entirely devoted to writing. And now I get to have weekends again. So I'm very precious about them. And like, if I'm working on a weekend, then the deadline's real bad. I really try not to do that. And I do desperately try to keep it as much as I can, like a 9 to 5 and sign off. Especially now that my partner also works from home. It's just nice to be done at the exact same time and sign off together. I'd say that's the main stuff. It's honestly really hard. It's definitely still something I struggle with. And going into this week, I'm going to be on 2 different deadlines, which tends to mean that the whole like stopping at 5 p.m. is not going to work. It's more like I work on one book during the day and I work on another book in the evening.
Wow.
But yeah, it's tricky, but it's also really fun. I don't know.
How do you not burn out like that?
Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty good about recognizing when I'm tired or when I'm burned out. And like I said, like doing my best to separate my weekends and be precious about my free time is definitely a big thing. Trying to just make myself more efficient and not get distracted while I write so that I can finish earlier, that's a big thing. Yeah, it's difficult, but usually these times where I'm really overlapped like this, they don't happen very often and they don't last forever. And that's usually what I try to keep in mind as I go through them. And that really helps. I think having a light at the end of the tunnel, that counts for so much, no matter how hard I'm working.
The life of an author, coming up with ideas that have to wait a while to be written.
Yeah, that couldn't be more true.
Do you have a list of like book ideas with like little tidbits of like what you want this book to be about, so that you can like go to that list in the future?
Yeah,
or like I want to write this book, but I can't right now, so here's this idea.
Yeah. It's funny because like for a really long time I did have a queue, and now I've taken a lot of things off the queue recently. So at this point, honestly, I think the only thing left on my queue is that one middle grade series that understands it will be on the queue for a really long time. And I feel no pressure to add to the queue. That's the worst. Like when I get really sidetracked with something new that like I know isn't even like going to be relevant for a long time, and then it just is all I can think about for a week or two. Yeah, that's terrible. So I'm trying to avoid inspiration actually at all costs.
I love that.
I have actually I just found my little list that I haven't added anything to this in a long time, but one, if my husband read like the top part in this, he would be like, but the title says novel ideas, but it says, I really did love my husband. If only he could have kept it in his pants, he might still be alive today.
Whoa. Yeah,
that was a novel idea.
I mean, mine, if we go, where's the beginning of this section? I mean, I have
pages and pages.
Oh, that's like a whole
pages and
binder
pages of like ideas and like things I wrote in high school that I could expand on. That I was just like, whenever I get an idea blockage, I can come back to that, maybe.
Okay, since you talked about Avatar TLA, I don't know what TLA is.
The Last Airbender.
Last Airbender. Sorry.
Which tribes would Barkley, Tig, and Viola be in? And then yourself.
I would be an airbender, like Barkley. I think Barkley would be an airbender. I give him wind powers, so Tig also is kind of straightforward. I mean,
water.
Yeah, I would say that he would be a waterbender. I know that he can also use electric lore, which is a type of firebending in the show, but I see him more as a waterbender. And then Viola.
She gives me firebender vibes.
I was going to say she gives me fire.
Yeah, well, I think she'd be a firebender.
See, she gives me fire, but she also gives me a little bit of earth.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So she's like somewhere in the middle of them.
See, I think I got the fire because of like she's got this fiery spirit to her.
Yes, she's very feisty.
Yeah.
Probably more like a lava bender.
That would be cool.
I was just thinking the same line as Drew's question. What's the process for you in order to switch gears when working from book to book?
Oh, to be honest, there isn't a big process to it. Usually it's like I go to my Finder and then I click the document and then I just open it. And that's usually my whole process. But one of the things I do really attempt to do if I don't have a ton of control over like when it comes to my deadlines. But I try when I'm working on different books at roughly the same time that I'm working on them in different ways. So for instance, right now in All of Us Villains 2, Christine and I are doing the final big revision on the book. And then for Wilderlore 3, I'm in line edits, which is more of the polishing the writing. It's the stage after where All of Us Villains, it's one stage ahead. And that's really helpful because then in my head, one of the books I'm focused on like these really big picture sort of stuff and like nailing down the specific scenes, making them as perfect as I can make them. And then the other book, it's like the language, it's like making it pretty, finally getting rid of all my typos and things like that. And that really helps as well.
One of the questions that we ask everyone is, do you have like a thing that you always have with you when you're writing? I know, what was it? Janella had a bird.
Yeah,
She has like a little bird.
A little bird that sits on her desk.
Really?
Yeah, she's got a little bird that sits on her desk.
Interesting.
that she has with her when she. Yeah, it's interesting to like hear what everybody has is like their strange thing that they have with them all the time. I love it.
I don't know if I have anything like that. I've been writing for a really long time, like ever since I was a kid. And so like all through college, my various apartments, in my break times at the office here and there. And like even as a kid, like my parents divorced when I was really little. So I kind of switched time between both my parents' houses. And so my life was always very changeable. And I don't take too much stuff with me, but I do, ideally though, being really comfy. I know some people are like, I have to get up and get dressed in the morning so that I feel professional, which I understand. But no, I wear like most days I feel like I'm like wearing a bathrobe or something. And now that my husband is here all day working from home, to be fair, I never worked at the desk, but I used to work in the living room. And so now he's in the living room and he has a lot of calls and like that during the day. So I work in the bedroom. So I'm just like, oh, like, I'm in a bathrobe in bed. Like that's what I do all day with my life.
I love it.
As someone who works from home, I love it.
Love that for you.
Yeah, I've reached that point now where if I have a Zoom call, it's like, business up top and like party at the bottom, like big flannel pants or something.
Oh my
gosh! Another thing we like to ask is, do you have like a go-to writing snack or beverage or both? Something that you like to have there while you're eating or while you're writing?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I actually find that the reason my keyboard is absolutely disgusting is because if I eat while I'm writing, it gets out of my keyboard. So then the people are like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm like, but how are you like typing while you do that? So there isn't really a snacking thing. But as far as drinks, recently those little like seltzers, I used to think that they were kind of silly. I was like, oh, like it's just flavored sparkling water, like whatever. And now it's like the amount that we go through every week. I don't know when it happened, but suddenly like we drink so much of that. My husband and I drink a ton of tea, so much tea. And very, very recently, I have finally developed a small taste for coffee. Yes, I've never really liked it. And it's like one of the few foods that is just a little too bitter. And to be fair, I feel like the drinks that I have been making myself are like, coffee is like a suggestion. Like it is like mostly just sugar and cream. But yes, I feel like that would be a question I would get asked a lot on panels. It's like, oh, you're an author, you must like coffee. And I'm like, I do not.
Yeah, my husband used to joke with me all the time. Would you like some coffee with that sugar?
Yeah.
No. No, thank you.
That is
someone as
quite honestly the drinks I make.
as someone who's allergic to caffeine, when people ask me if I like coffee, I was like, no, I can't
Oh,
have
no.
coffee. The only thing with caffeine in it I can have is sweet tea.
Interesting.
Is my black
can you have
tea.
chocolate?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
I used to be
That made me
allergic
really
to chocolate.
sad.
I used to be allergic to chocolate too, but in the past like 5 years, it's allowed me to eat it. So I'm like, now I'm consuming so much chocolate because I'm like, I may be allergic to it again, so I'm gonna eat
You're
it.
making up for lost time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I love the smell of coffee. I think coffee smells so
It
good.
does smell good.
I do not like the taste of coffee, so I'm like, I like my coffee to not taste like coffee. So lots of creamer.
Exactly.
I would
That's
have
exactly how I felt too.
I
I
have to
said
do
something to my
decaf.
mom the other day about how I was I'm not really drinking energy drinks anymore. I'm like going back to drinking coffee. And she's like, is it decaf? And I was like, no. What's the point of that?
Decaf is disgusting.
I mean, I don't even want to taste coffee. Why would I have
Decaf is,
decaf
like, all I
coffee? It would
drink.
takes everything away.
Because I can have decaf coffee because it doesn't have as much caffeine in it. But it's like mostly it's like this is the coffee, that is the creamer, then that is the sugar levels just to get rid of the taste of the decaf coffee. It's like
And it's like, what's the point?
What's the
Because there's
point?
no
What's the
caffeine.
point?
in it.
Just drink some
Yeah,
milk.
I mostly drink decaf coffee.
Totally ragging on her decaf.
I get so buzzed. I don't know how to handle it. Maybe I'll eventually work my way up.
Well, seeing as you never really drank coffee before, like that makes sense.
It's a
To go
lot.
from not
It
drinking
is so
anything.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
I look back on like my roommates in college and I'm like, you used to drink like 4 cups of coffee a day. I like can barely handle half a cup of regular
My
coffee.
stepdad drinks coffee like it's water. He will have probably 6, 7, 8 cups of coffee a day. I'm like, sir? And he drinks it to go to bed. I'm like, I don't understand you.
My father-in-law drinks it at night. Like he'll get up in the middle of the night and get up a cup of coffee and a Twinkie or something. I don't know.
One of my friends has to have she drinks up to 10 cups of coffee a day of the death by coffee ones. That's like the strongest level of caffeine. I looked at her and I was like, if I was to smell that, I would die. How are you functioning as a human being right now?
Yeah, my son, who's 15, he drinks a cup or two a day in the morning. Okay, so Kayla wants to know which Harry Potter houses would the characters be in?
Oh, I think Barkley would be in Ravenclaw. I think Viola would be in Slytherin. And Tig,
Slytherin.
I don't think he'd be in Slytherin.
No,
I
totally
don't
got
think
Slytherin.
so. Tig is grumpy, but he is actually a man of very few ambitions. I'm
I feel
trying
like
to decide between Gryffindor, Hufflepuff.
I feel like he'd be a Hufflepuff. But with Hufflepuff, he's a little bit of all of it. So he'd be a
That's
Hufflepuff
true.
like me.
Yeah, I can really make a case for either of them. I'm kind of on the fence.
Maybe he's a Grufflepuff. He's a Grufflepuff.
True.
A Huffledore?
That's valid. That's
A
a valid
Huffledore?
thing. Yeah. All right, I'll go with that.
With 2 books going at once, how do you keep from getting confused? Like, does Barkley make an appearance in All of Us Villains?
No, I feel like the confusion, it's not that I confuse the books that much, but I do feel like working a lot does make my brain get really muddled. I tend to forget things a lot. I have ADD, and that's like by far the biggest thing I deal with is like, I'll be like, oh, like I'll remember this. Like Christine and I will have a whole conversation about something, and like 3 days later, I'll be like, I don't remember anything that we talked about. I'm so sorry. I did send a text her the other day that was like, did you read this book? And I spelled read like our character read, REID. I was like, oh no. So I feel like it just bleeds into other aspects of my life. I don't actually confuse the books themselves that much. The other thing that I think is funny is that I use book playlists a lot when I write. I love listening to music when I write. And I have Christine added a song to our All of Us Villains 2 playlist that's on one of my Wilderlore playlists about like a very specific character or two. And now I'm just like, oh, every time I hear it, like I'll be like working on book 1 and then it comes on and like I'm suddenly working on Wilderlore in my head. But no, otherwise they are pretty different. that are pretty different books, so that helps.
I find like people ask that question to me about reading multiple books at once, because I do that. I read several different books at once, and my thing is, as long as they're very different books, like I can read a thriller
genres.
and a cute middle grade and a romance all at the same time because they're very different. But I couldn't read like two kind of fantasies, two carnival books, anything that's too similar, because then they would get all mixed up in my brain. But if they're very different,
mine comes down to format. Even if I'm reading two physical fantasy books, it's very different than if I'm listening to a fantasy and reading a fantasy. Because for me, I can kind of I can't say that word.
Compartmentalize.
Whatever, you know what I mean. I can kind of put them in their own sections based off of how I am reading them. So.
I also like doing a regular book with an audiobook. Physical book with an audiobook. That really helps. So I tend to keep my audiobooks. I try to keep some middle grade books because I get a little bit overwhelmed when an audiobook is like 17 hours. Like, it's a really long time. My Libby hold will definitely expire by then.
You gotta speed up the volume.
No, I can't go that much faster. Like, one of my friends will be like, "Yeah, I listened to it at like 1.5," and I'm like, 1.5.
I listen to it at 3 times speed, 4 if I can.
What? I was like 1.5. What? That's slow.
Right now, I'm listening to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue with my husband, and we're listening at 2.2 speed.
It also depends on the narrator on where I can listen to it at a certain speed, because there are some that I have to listen to at a 1.5.
Like accents are hard.
Because accents.
If they have really strong accents, or if there's a lot of like music and stuff, kind of like sound effects in the thing, it kind of gets a little muddled.
I will never go lower than a 3. Usually I'm like 3.5, but if it's anything lower than a 3, I'm out. Like, I can't do it.
What?
It's too slow.
What?
It's how I
feel like you're all like playing a joke on me. That is so
no. Look, you can actually see what's on mine right now.
This is taking me back to like high school debate, like how we would talk.
It's all about how fast. It's all how fast you read in your own brain. Is like usually is how you read the audio.
Actually, one of the funny things about co-writing I noticed is that Christine reads like twice as fast as I do. I read very slowly. And the amount of times that like we're reading through something together, she's like, "I'm done with the page," and I'm like, "I'm not. I'm so sorry." Maybe it's just a me thing.
This is the speed of Addie LaRue at 2.2.
New York City, March 19th, 2014. 2. Addie leans against the window, watching the sun rise over Brooklyn. She wraps her fingers around a cup of tea, savoring the heat against her palms.
Is that like evocative and fun?
Okay, but wait. This is 3.
My second brother and sister, stepsister, both times were stellar. Unless it was part of my vivid dream. I let my fingers in my nose and sniff. Yeah, it definitely happened. I see out of the room, my whole body sore my head.
I don't believe
Okay,
you.
now I've caught up. Me, I usually start the audiobook at 1, and then I slowly move it up as my brain starts to catch up with it.
I start at 1.7.
1.15.
You should be though. Anything faster than 1 is great.
I start at 1.75 and go up until it gets to like, okay, things are getting muddled, and I back it down 1.
See,
the speed at which you must be able to read, like some of the middle grade books I've read on audiobook, they're like 7-9 hours. Like to do that in like 3 hours, that is powerful.
See, there are some people, I don't remember where I saw this, but someone was talking about how they listened to audiobooks at a 0.5 speed, and I was like, how? I would be so irritated and so annoyed because I would be 30 pages past where that person's at this point.
I have a friend who she likes the Outlander series, and I started reading or listening to the Outlander series, and we went on a trip together, and she listens to it over and over again, the same books over and over again, and but she listens to them at 1 speed, and I just can't. I cannot do 1 speed. It's way too slow for me, and she was just like, I can't listen to this. It's too fast. I don't understand anything they're saying. I'm like, you've read the book 15 times. You know the book. And I was like,
recite it by now.
I was like, I speak faster than the one speed. And she's like, no,
I know,
you don't.
right?
I was like, if I were talking at the one speed, I would be talking like this. And she's like, But I don't know. That's just how I talk. I talk fast, and so I don't know. I listen fast, I guess. I don't listen to Kaylani speed fast though, because that's too fast. My brain can't keep up with that.
I've actually listened. I've listened to an audiobook at a 4.0 speed and
Me
completely
too.
understood. As
Who
Sterling
wanted it?
Sterling walked into the bedroom and was just like, "The heck are you listening to?" Because all I hear is jumbled mess, and I was like, "Pause. What'd you say? Because I need you to repeat so I can listen to you, and then I can
Okay,
go back to my
another
audiobook."
question. Can you multitask
No.
while listening? No.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
into an audiobook?
Depends on the
Because
audiobook.
I am a big multitasker. Like I cook a lot when I listen to audiobooks, or like I walk somewhere, something like that.
Then yes. I drive
Yes.
a lot. I
Yeah.
drive with my audiobooks. I clean with my audiobooks. The one thing I cannot do though is I know that there's people out there like Clint does this. He will watch a YouTube video and read a book at the same time. Like what the heck?
Well, we
I
always
can't
have like
listen to
TV.
something else.
We always
while
have
listening
TV
to an
on,
audiobook.
we always have TV and stuff going on in the background while both me and Sterling are sitting on the couch reading.
Mm-mm.
Or while I'm working at home, I have an audiobook playing sometimes while I'm working. But it depends on the genre of that audiobook. Because if it's a contemporary setting, I can do it. If it's not a contemporary setting and I have to actually pay attention,
My ADD is like, no.
For me, I listen to audiobooks when I'm driving, when we're cooking. Like last night, for example, I was playing Addie LaRue while I was chopping, like slicing up green onions, and Marty was cooking, and like he was browning up the pork, and he was listening while he was doing that. And so we were listening while we were cooking, and I listen when I'm cleaning or painting or things like that don't require my brain doing anything else.
That's what I do too. I just can't imagine doing that at like 4 speed. Like, no.
I'm surprised that you're even able to like write and listen to music. Because like for me, when I'm listening to music, like I'm engrossed. So I feel like I would type out things that are going through my like head with the music. I'm like typing out the lyrics, and that doesn't work. I don't understand how you do that.
It depends on the song. Yeah, I feel like it depends on the song. I also make like 80s rock playlists to most of my books.
Makes sense.
I have
genre
bad
as
taste in
most.
music, so
Your husband's made some appearances in the background.
Hi, husband.
Yeah.
I've seen him come across a couple of times.
Yeah, right. He's playing Magic the Gathering with his friends online. Yeah, the music doesn't bother me that much. I won't listen to the music if I'm line editing. That takes like an intense amount of focus. I have to like really look at every single word. I also tend to read my books out loud once I hit that stage. And that would be really distracting, I feel like. Then I wouldn't be able to really get into doing the storytelling.
Hi, hubby. Let's see, crazy combo of Amanda Foody characters.
No!
Barkley and his friends go on an adventure to New Reigns. Oh gosh, where Rook ends up doing everyone a favor by eating Harrison Augustine. Oh my.
Oh my. I read about it. I was like, no, they can't go there. That's not allowed.
Working in a bathrobe in bed equals goals. I don't like warm drinks, so coffee and tea have always been a no-go. I mean, you can have iced coffee and
iced tea. Yeah.
Come to the South, we'll give you sweet tea, darling.
Which is like 95% sugar, 95% sugar, 3% tea, and 2% water.
I call it diabetic tea because it causes diabetes. If it's not sweet enough to cause diabetes, it's not made right.
Yeah.
I started drinking coffee in college and would literally be shaking in class. My dad drinks so much I can't even keep track. If I listen to an audiobook too slow, I lose focus.
Me too.
Yeah, for me, it's like a happy medium. If it's too fast, I'm like, wait, what just happened? And I have to back up. If it's too slow, I'm just like, my mind wanders off. Can't listen to anything more than 1.8 usually, or else it's just gibberish. 2.2 to 2.6 is my sweet spot, depending on the narrator and genre. Same for me. 2 is my starting speed, and I determine where to go depending on the narrator.
Y'all are so strong.
Our brains process audiobooks at our own speed, so each their own.
See, I know back in high school when I was listening to audiobooks, I listened to them at like a 1 or a 1.5 speed. It's like the older I've gotten, the faster my audio.
Maybe we're all just in a rush. Maybe we're all just in a rush.
I'm still growing up.
We're just kind of training. We've trained our ears to like process it quicker.
I have too many books on these shelves that I need to get through really fast. So listen.
Yeah.
Same. I have over 2,000 books in my library. I'm in my library. You can't see it. These are my unhaul books. But hold on.
Sterling's been putting every book in a thing. We still got 3.5 shelves, not even the closet to go. We haven't even touched the closet, and we're already at almost 600 books. So
whoa,
huge collection.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome. I have
her collection. Her collection gives me anxiety sometimes.
I thought I had a lot of books, but dang, no.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. One day when I'm not in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Audiobooks get me through chores and commutes.
Yes.
Hi, Bean.
Oh, Jelly
Say
Bean.
hi. Come here, dude.
Work out and listen.
Yeah, baby. Say hello. This is Jelly Bean.
Hi, Jelly Bean.
Heart.
Hi, baby.
He looks like my Tigger. See if I can find Tigger.
Hey, dude. What have you been up to today?
Jelly Bean. He's so adorable.
He looks like my Tigger.
If I wasn't allergic to cats, I would totally be all on that.
I'm now totally covered in cat hair. That's fine.
Yeah, those ginger cats too. They're like, I don't know if it's
right.
Mine looks like Garfield. He's a chunky thing, and he likes Italian.
He likes Italian.
He likes Italian
Jelly
food.
Bean loves olives.
I think Ginger's like Italian.
Yeah.
Somewhere my Tigger is taking a nap, probably. He's an old boy.
Yeah, we were gone for too long for the holidays. Jelly Bean, I think he was, after being at my parents' house for so long and they had 2 dogs and he's not used to being around dogs, he has done nothing for the past week except just like sleep.
Oh.
So I'm surprised he's up and at him.
We love animal appearances.
Yes.
We all have we all have animals here. I have 2 dogs and 4 cats in my house.
Oh wow. That's awesome. I would love to get another cat at some point, but our place is a little too tiny for her right now.
Kitty, excuse me while I so the touchdown wiggle. Sorry, I'm multitasking. Okay.
So confused.
I feel Mel and I are kindred spirits with our book collections. Yeah,
3,000 books is a lot of books.
Yes.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah, I recently filmed a bookshelf tour saying all of the books, like each individual book that I own. It took so long.
It
was torture. It took 4 days to film.
Sorry, I would have just done shelf overviews. I would not have pulled out at that point and been like, this shelf has all of these authors on it. Pull out the ones that you like. Go to the next one.
It took 4 days to film. It was 151 gigs of data. It was 14 hours, 55 minutes, and 16 seconds of raw footage. And when it was edited down as compact as I could possibly get it, it was still 1 hour and 40 minutes long.
That's too much.
Wow.
It took 3 days to edit that video.
And how many of them have you read?
Okay. She's known for one of her games is Have I Read It, where she watches past book hauls and we vote on which ones of those that she should read.
Each month, yeah.
that
And
she hasn't read, and most of the time they're big fails. Just as an example.
these are from hauls that are like 3+ years ago.
3 years old, yeah.
And
So,
like you
okay,
would have read a single one. Oh my gosh.
with my
That's
books,
accountability.
I don't keep anything that is, when I read it, if it's under 4 stars, I unhaul it because I don't have any more room. I just can't keep I can't keep all the books I read. So the only books that are on my shelves are ones I haven't read or that I've read and given 4 or 5 stars. So the majority of books that are on my shelves are books that I haven't read, just because
You unhaul so much.
I unhaul most of the ones that I
Right.
read.
That
So
makes
and her obsession with Book Outlet.
Book Outlet. Jeez,
yeah. Way too many Book Outlet orders, but when I first found Book Outlet back in 2017. So my haul videos, I'd get like stacks of books that are taller than me, or boxes of stacks of books that are taller
Oh
than
my
me.
gosh. Oh wow. That is
And then she would have to split them up into like 3-4 videos because she has so many books that she bought. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
And so then now I'm like reacting to those hauls from 3 or 4 years ago and going, did I read any of these books? Do I still have any of these books? And there are a lot of them that I have not read. So
And a
I'm like
lot
trying
of
to
them,
read those
and a
now.
lot of them are books that none of us have ever heard of.
But if you think about it, Mel, you average about 200 books a year.
Yeah.
Reading 200 books a year.
Yeah. This year I
Wow.
read 209 books. Last year I read 239.
I was at 223 this year. Do you know?
I hit at 107 from December to November, so I'm good there.
That's good.
Clint
Wow.
exposes Mel live.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not gonna share mine.
But
I
you
think
see, you're
everybody
But you
you're
write
writing
books.
them.
But yeah,
you
you
write
out
books.
here writing books.
Yeah, but
Writing
I
books is
feel
a
like I
lot
should
harder
be
than
reading
reading
more.
books.
Very
yeah, I
true.
feel like I should be reading more. I especially now that I like in middle grade and YA, like I used to feel like pretty up to date on like what was coming out in YA.
Man.
And now that I've like expanded my focus to just oh my god, so much faster.
How?
Wow.
I don't think that you
Um,
do anything else but read. 400 to 500 books a year? How
Wait,
do you
what?
do that?
What?
She reads,
No.
she reads
Just
400
comment.
to 500 books a year.
This comment.
How?
Oh god, I thought you were talking about me. I was like, it could not be more different than that. What did I say?
Question: how many of them are audiobooks or graphic
How many of them are
novels?
mangas? Yeah, seriously.
I'm listening to you all with my headset, but my husband has the Pats game on and he keeps me posted loudly as the destroyer of silence dies in his natural habitat. Not dies, does. I only read 82 books this year, but I used to over 100.
You're still doing better than me.
Well, I
think
know
you're
that
thriving.
this year my reading is going to go downhill with me planning a wedding
Oh,
and
yeah.
getting everything. Yeah.
Wedding
You
planning
know,
is
that's
gonna
a good point. I should not judge myself for my 2021 reading
Yes.
list.
Be kind to yourself, Amanda. Be kind to yourself.
And I mean, seriously, the fact that like if I were to work on, I don't think I could read while writing a book. I really just don't. For one, I would be worried that just whatever stories that I was reading would bleed into
Yeah.
what I was
Mhm.
writing. Do you ever have that happen? Like if you're reading something and writing?
I feel like the story now, maybe stylistically here and there, maybe, but at some point in edits that would end up getting streamlined anyway. Yeah, because I'm always working on something. So if I'm reading something, I'm like always reading it while I'm working on a particular book. It does kind of help me to read something that's different than what I'm writing. So like if I'm working on a YA, I could read a middle grade, but like lately I'm just working on everything. So
Not many audiobooks or graphic novels. I read 425 this year, which is less than last year.
I'm shooketh.
Even if all I did during my waking hours was read, I don't think I could read that much in a single year. Same.
No.
How many books? Hold on.
For Amanda, what would
Oh,
you do
no.
if you received an envelope and in it is a shadow game card?
I think I'd be pretty freaked out.
She was reading 33 books a month. What the
Wow.
fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be pretty freaked out. Well, on one side, if it was not real, I could be like, oh, this looks exactly how I pictured it. And then I'd be like, wait.
My book is haunting me.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah, that's how it would feel.
Yeah, I think that would be scary. Because I'd be like, okay, wait a minute. No, this is supposed to be fiction.
Right? I once got followed by an account that was called Ace of Shades. And I was like, what? And I looked up and it was for lamps.
Awesome.
That was funny because I was like,
So I have a question, and it's book title related. So your book, which came first, Ace of Shades, gets mixed up a lot with Ace of Spades.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, people have been calling my book like it came out in 2018. I think Ace of Spades came out this year, right? 2021. Yeah.
I think so.
And people have been calling my book Ace of Spades because, like, of course, that's like what it's a pun. Like, this is what happens when you title a book after a pun. People will be like, that can't be right. Has to be what I. So, it was already kind of something that I was seeing a lot simply by mistake. So then when there was another book thrown into the mix, and especially because the cover of the book, I mean, obviously they both clearly have like some card elements going on. I haven't actually read this Ace of Spades. And I mostly just find it kind of funny. I was just like, oh, like you tagged me and you definitely did not mean me. Or vice versa. I've seen actually a lot of photos that I get tagged in on Instagram that they'll put both of the books side by side. And be like, these are my Ace of Spades books.
Speaking of tagging you,
it's kind of fun.
Yesterday I had an issue with I was trying to tag you in a thing for the live show, and it's like your Twitter, I don't know, something was wrong and it wouldn't. It would like.
I don't have a Twitter anymore.
Oh, see, it comes up, but hold on, let me show you what happens. Because your Twitter, like you can search you and find your Twitter.
Yeah, I haven't used my Twitter in like months and months and months. I kind of fell off of it in like, I don't know, like late 2020. I just feel like I didn't really have a lot to say anymore. I was like, I don't leave my house. Oh yeah, it still exists. That's so
but
weird.
It's like blank and it tells you that you can't whatever.
That's bizarre. Yeah, I deactivated it and deleted it like a little while ago because I was just like, I am just not using this. I was like, Instagram is hard enough, man. But that's probably why, because it must be in some. I guess I'll have to look into that. It must be in like some strange limbo.
But yeah, I tried tagging you and it was like there was an error. I'm like, okay, well I'll just write out her name. But I tagged sort of the half there, half not account. But yeah, when I was trying to like figure out where you were yesterday, and I'd emailed you and I was like, well, we're discussing this in the live show. I'm like, I'm writing her, I'm emailing her. I'm writing her on Instagram, and I was like, oh, she posted her story. I was showing your story. I was like, she posted your story, and I was like, well, let me try to write her on Twitter, and I couldn't write you on Twitter. I'm like, I don't know. Everybody's like, where's she at? I'm like, I don't know.
Oh God, I've disappeared.
And they're like, are you sure you gave her the right date? And I was like, yeah, let me read the email just to make sure.
Oh my God.
And in my brain, I went, what time zone is she in? Did we say the wrong time zone?
Time zone?
Did you say
the time zone thing is admittedly so trippy. I can't tell you how many times this year I've gotten onto something and they're like, no, I meant Pacific time or something. And I'm like, what? No.
Well, I think Clint looked up what time zone you were located in. And I was like, that's the same time zone as me.
Yeah.
I was like, so I definitely gave her the right time zone.
Well, that was like when we had Sophie Gonzalez and she was in Australia, but she asked us to do it at 1:00 in the morning, her time.
Yeah.
So that, because she's on American time because of all of her promotions of her books.
Yeah, so I was like, I tried to make it so it would be like afternoon or evening for her. And she's like, oh no, that's a terrible time. Can we do like this time, and I was like, wait, that's like 1 a.m. something like your time. And she's like, yes, that's much, much better for me. I'm like,
yeah, I don't. My agent is based out of South Africa, so she's currently 7 hours ahead. And whenever I get like an email or a call from her, that's honestly like anytime that's like after 1 p.m., I'm like, what are you doing? Stop working. Like, oh my gosh, it's like getting late there. Go to bed, relax. I can't imagine. I feel like that just must be really difficult to work in the book publishing industry and have to cater to U.S. time zones. That would get pretty old. I know they're used to it, but like, wow.
yeah, she lives in Australia, she lives in Australia, and so she's like, all of her books are published here in the U.S. and everything she does is pretty much on U.S. time. So her whole for her 1 o'clock in the morning is early evening for her, because she's like, yeah, I go to sleep like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning so that I can do all my stuff on U.S. time. I'm like, man, okay.
But I just want to say thank you, Amanda, for joining us. This was a blast, and I know we don't want to keep you much longer because this is probably a lot longer than we said we would do it originally.
No, it's fine. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun. I haven't done any Wilderlore events in a little while, and I've been really looking forward to them with book 2 coming out. So this has been really great.
And for all of you, make sure if you haven't already pre-ordered it while we're in, or ordered it while we're in the video, go order this one. Where did I set my other one?
Yeah, if you want to
pre-order the sequel for this one.
Amazon's currently doing a sale on All of Us as Villains. As I was looking at it on the thing just to see the price, it's currently $9.99 on Amazon.
Yeah, it's actually even cheaper right now at Target too. If that's
get this one too while you're at it, because
Daughter of Burning City is currently $6.99 for hardback.
Really? Oh, I did not realize that. Oh my gosh.
Go order it while you can get it at that price.
Sales.
And again, thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. We really look forward to continuing with this series, and
we really do.
Really look forward to
I need to know what happens next.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope that all these books that, they live up to it. I hope that you like them.
I don't think we'll have a problem with that. They are fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope everybody here enjoyed this video, this extra live show that you got. And I'm so glad that you got to come and ask your questions to Amanda. And keep an eye out, because the next round of SeasonAthon will be announced before you know it. We're already working on that. Oh my goodness. So if you like this video, make sure you give us a big thumbs up. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye.
In broadcast.